I'm Joel Miller, and I'm your host of Party Like a Rock Star. Today's episode is brought to you by Misha's Kind Food. They're an LA-based small business making the world's finest non-dairy cheese spreads on the market today. They're delicious and healthy, made from a cashew and almond milk and blended with various locally sourced fresh herbs, vegetables, and spices. No vegetable oils, soy, fillers, starchers, or nutritional yeast. It's lactose-free, paleo, keto, kosher Parev, 100% vegan. We're also brought to you by HollywoodSauce.com, bringing you the very best in hot sauces, barbecue sauces, salsas, marinades, and other fiery foods. Today, my guest is my buddy, John Mahon. John Mahon has been in Elton John's band since 1997. Do you feel aged, John?
I feel definitely aged.
Okay, 1997. To put that into perspective, John has performed with Elton John 2,263 times.
Wow.
That's excluding, John, television shows, broadcasts, and one-offs, I presume. Okay. Other acts John's worked for are Peter White and Al Stewart, Rita Coolidge, and Helen Reddy. David Garibaldi, best known as the drummer of Tower of Power, was his teacher. If you don't know who David Garibaldi is, Rolling Stone ranked him as one of the 100 greatest drummers of all time. John studied at Dick Grove School of Music. Other students of the Dick Grove School of Music were Michael Jackson, Linda Ronstadt, and Barry Manilow. Some of the teachers there, Henry Mancini, Bill Conti, and Lalo Schifrin. He also recently got a new dog that he's very excited about.
Yes, it was named after Quincy Jones.
Hey, there you go. It's worth bringing up. My intern for the day is my buddy, Peter Finestone. He's referred to me because the guys in his band went to my high school, and John Mahon still lives by my high school. I thought they would make a good fit. Peter is going to the Dominican Republic in July for the Latin American Games with his son, who will be representing Team USA in baseball for the 12-year-olds. He's the father of 3 young men, and he was the coach of his son's basketball team until COVID hit, and now he's homeschooling 2 of the guys. Now, other than that very cool stuff, Peter also just happens to have been the drummer for the band Bad Religion. I messed up your band name. Sorry, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys. Peter was the drummer for Bad Religion, playing with Bad Religion for 10 years. Peter himself studied underneath Lars. It was what? What'd you say, Pete?
I said it was 12 years, but who's counting?
12 years. Okay. All right. We'll give you the couple extra years. Yeah. That's right. There was a couple years where they said they could do better, but you know.
Oh, words. Damn straight.
Peter himself studied under Lucky Lehrer, who is the drummer of the Circle Jerks. So I kind of feel like I just introduced a celebrity death match or something. I don't know. Peter's into boxing. Was that good? Was that kind of like was that the good intro?
Yeah. I just want to say, John, I'm a huge fan. And Joel just sent me a text. What's today? What is today? Thursday, right? Right.
Yeah.
And he sent me a message, I think, yesterday. And when he told me about this, I thought I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, man, please, you know. So I'm really, John. I'm really stoked.
Thanks,
to
man.
have the chance to, John.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. This is going to be really cool.
Thank you.
So, John, to delve into your past. So, you moved to LA in 1983. You're from where?
Canton, Ohio.
Ohio, okay.
Yeah.
And did you go to music schools or anything as a kid, or?
I did. Most of the stuff I did in Ohio, I did a couple music classes at Kent State University, which was not too far from where I lived, and then I met this guy named Bill Severence, a drummer, and he had been to the Berklee School of Music. And not to drag it out too much, but I was playing with all these local guys, and I was really focused on the drum set at, that time. And we were just learning to play tunes, and we'd get together and jam, and we'd try to play jazz tunes out of the real book. And and we were more just jamming and learning to, honing our craft, if you will. But this one guy came back from, we met this sax player who had already gone and graduated from music school somewhere, in Virginia, I think. I'm not sure where he went to school, but anyways, he's playing with us one day, and he's like we're playing these jazz tunes, and he was pretty badass, and he just looked around and he goes, "You guys suck."
Oh,
You guys are terrible, man. And I'm like, wow, what do you? And I was really like trying really hard, when he goes, do any of you guys study or anything like that? And we're like, no, we're just, we just listen to records and play along. And he's like, you're fucking crazy, man. You got to like study with the real deal. And so, he wound up dragging us to Cleveland to go see these jazz bands. And one of them was this guy called Pat Pace, and he was kind of the local badass piano player, a real heavy bebopper kind of guy. And I introduced myself to the drummer, who just blew me away because he was completely ambidextrous. And I'm ambidextrous too. So right away, I was like enamored with this guy. He could play left-handed or right-handed. So I said, do you study? I mean, do you teach? And he goes, yeah. And it turned out he lived not too far from where I lived. He'd been to the Berklee School of Music for a year or so. And he goes, I'm just going to teach you the Berklee drum method, which that wound up being like a year and a half. I mean a year and a half nonstop studying with this guy every Saturday with a lesson. And my friend said, if you don't practice, if you're not practicing 4 to 8 hours a day, then you're kidding yourself. So I just, that was it, man. It changed my life. I just said, okay, I'm going to hunker down here. I'm going to study with this guy, play gigs at night that I could get, and practice all day long. And that's what I did for a good couple of years, just
A lot of
non-stop
playing.
practice, man.
So did you do that too, Peter? Did you practice for that many hours when you were?
no, come on. John's a real deal, dude. I just played around. I could barely play. That's what actually.
I would.
That's what. Wait. That's what attracted me at first to playing punk rock, because it was like it was just kids. You really, you really didn't have to have years of experience. It was just sit down
Mhm.
and just learn to play. So I mean, John comes from a whole another friggin' planet, all right? I was more or less self-taught. I took a few little lessons. When I look back, I was like, oh, I wish I had done things, like John did. But that's my story.
Yeah.
And
I think it's a lot of
I was
about who you're surrounded with, if I wouldn't have met
yeah.
this one guy, I may have never studied, with anybody else. I might have thought, fuck it, this is great. We're doing gigs, everything's fine, but
Uh-huh.
it definitely opened up some doors. But but then the other side of that is that you see you're your own style of drummer, where I had to turn into more like a chameleon. By you study with this guy, study with this guy, and then you learn all these different styles, and you don't necessarily develop your own style, which is I don't want to say it's the downside to being a well-schooled player. But it's what do you want to call that? It's an effect of being a well-schooled player. You're affected by all these other players. Sorry to interrupt you, though.
No, John, were your mom and dad, did they have any musical background or?
Not professionally. My dad was an Irish cop, but he loved to,
Wow.
get drunk and sing, basically. So, and he could play a little trumpet. But he was really the one that pushed us. I mean, he's the one that, drugged me down to the music store because they bought me a drum set. My mom and dad bought me a drum set for Christmas. My mother, she was not musical. She was more of a farm girl and really didn't care about me becoming a musician at all.
Did she pat you on the head when you're a little guy? She'd give you a pat on the head, a little thing like that, and
No, she would hand me a shovel and go, here, go plant a tree. That was my mom.
Yeah.
My dad was more like, the one that, like, let's sit around and sing or something like that. So, they bought me a really, cheap little drum set from China or whatever. And once I destroyed
Awesome.
that, my dad threw me in the car and said, "Come on, we're going down to the local store to get me a Rogers drum kit, man."
Nice.
So yeah,
Rogers. Wow. I haven't heard
yeah.
that name in
So
a long time.
I bought a real, he bought me a real drum set, and then I got in a real band, and that made his day. I got in a real band, and um,
Very supportive.
yeah, he was very
So
supportive.
when did that one day come where you said to yourself, okay, I play drums, I'm good, I want to make this my life? When did that happen?
Well, one day that was very important was I was playing in this band like 4 nights a week, like this local kind of. We played whatever we could play. You've been in bands like top. We
Yeah.
were sort of a top 40 band, but
Uh-huh.
also we threw in a few of our own tunes and whatever. And we were doing like
Uh-huh.
4 nights a week at a bar from 10 to 2. But I also had a day job in a lumber yard, so I worked in
I
this
read
lumber
about
yard.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would either drive a forklift around, or I'd load trucks, or I'd make deliveries, and
Oh,
I'll never forget these two older friends of mine that were much more accomplished musicians than me at the time. Um, they came over to the lumber yard one day and they said, "You're quitting, you're joining our band, and that's it.
wow.
You're done. No more lumber yard. No more day job. You're a professional musician now." You know, uh,
Wow.
and that day was a big deal because I realized I didn't need. Once I started to do more and more gigs and actually make some money doing it, I didn't need that stupid. Hey man, you look back on that shit. I made $100 a
Yeah.
week working in that lumber yard. You know, 40 hours a week I worked there, man.
Yeah,
So,
but you're
but
leaving your guaranteed livelihood and hoping that they're right. Dean DeLeo from Stone Temple Pilots, he worked in construction and was very hesitant to stop. But his brother, I think his brother, maybe the band, but I think his brother convinced him to give it a go.
yeah,
And I admire that. It's a scary thing to do.
it's especially for a small town. I mean, I was in Canton, Ohio. It's a small town. There's only so many gigs to do. Um, but I just, it was a leap of faith, and the band it was a great band actually. It was like a funk kind of. We did like a lot of average white band and stuff like that, and uh, it was a mixed band. It was half black, half white, and we did a lot of soul tunes, and we wound up playing all these dance clubs at the time where uh, you know disco was still kind of there, but we were still hanging on and still playing the funk R&B thing, and it worked out. But that was that crossing point where I went, wow, I can do this.
Yeah.
Right. And then what happened? I read. What made you decide to go west
That goes
to
back to,
California?
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, when my friends, those two friends that told me, you're quitting this job and you're just going to play with us, those were the guys that I would go jam with during the day. If we weren't gigging at night, we'd be jamming. And that's when this guy came in and said, "You guys suck, you should study." And so, that turned me on to quite a few years of studying and practicing a lot. And that same teacher, Bill Severence, um, he moved to LA. One day he just said to me, "Hey man, you've been through the whole Berkeley thing. I don't know what else to teach you at this point." We played through this book inside and out, and practiced my reading and stuff. And at that point he said, and at that point I had joined a whole nother band, like a bona fide show band, if you will, that was actually making $500 a week. So that was big money.
Yeah, better than the $100 doing
Yeah, yeah.
crappy
So
work.
I joined that band and I was working quite a bit. And Bill had moved to LA maybe 2 or 3 years before that, and got the gig with Captain and Tennille,
Yeah.
right? And he's always calling,
That's
always
so
calling
awesome.
me, "Hey man, yeah." He's always calling me, going, "You got to come out here, man. You're spinning your wheels back there. I mean, God bless him, because he kept motivating me, and he must have saw that I had some kind of potential. So he just kept, "Come on, man, come on out." So yeah, one day we got married and I said, do you want to move to LA? And she was like, yes, let's go, So um, that was it. We kind of,
What year?
that was 1983. So
During
we
this
Okay.
time, like still like 4 to 8 hours a day is a lot for me. That's amazing. And
um,
were there times then that you were frustrated because you weren't learning things quick enough, or um, were there times where you were thinking maybe I'm going to throw in the towel?
no, I don't think that, not back then. I didn't. I still had that fire in my belly, because, uh, I just, sometimes you get that feeling that something is better, something is bigger and better is waiting for you a little bit. And I mean, yeah, of course, everybody when you're young, right, Peter? It's like you have
Oh,
aspirations. You see you go to a concert and you go, man, I want to be up there. I don't want to be sitting down here, right? I want to be up there
oh,
playing. And so I still had aspirations. I would say the only time I got really discouraged was after I came to LA. So I
mhm.
basically came to LA in '83, and then and through and I just started networking and playing in different bands, and then Bill threw me a lot of gigs, and I put an original band together. We played at Sash all the time and Club Lingerie, and you know,
Oh, lingerie.
yeah,
Yes.
and that band was called the Stickmen. We played a lot of the local clubs, Madam Wong's, remember that, and um,
Yeah.
eh, and then that band sort of fell apart, and then I met some smooth jazz guys and started doing their records and playing with those guys. But I went through a period like after the smooth jazz thing, I just kind of got discouraged because there was not enough of that work around, and what work there was,
Mhm.
there still wasn't a lot of money involved in those, jazz gigs,
Yeah.
um, and it wasn't about so much making. I didn't really care about making a lot of money, but I wanted some kind of steady. I didn't want to have to consistently hustle. Where you're always hustling, man. You're always on the phone. Hey, man, you got any openings this weekend? I'm always. I didn't care if it was a wedding, a bar mitzvah, a gig in Minneapolis. I didn't.
Everything.
I'll take it. If it pays money, because you gotta pay the piper, right? I just bought a house. Got to pay a mortgage. So I got a little bit discouraged there after I worked with Chuck Negron, the guy from Three Dog
Right.
Night. I
Yeah.
and in his band, because I was singing so much at the time, I got asked to be a singer in his band and play percussion on the side. So that kind of pointed me to what I'm doing now with Elton, because
Right.
I realized what I was doing with him was a little bit more of an unusual position. I wasn't just the drummer. Um, I was I had a lot of responsibility singing background parts and playing sampled parts, and uh, you know everybody was busting out loops and stuff at the time, and I was
Uh,
learning to chop up the loops and play them live so they would fit into the groove kind of thing. And I
uh,
was really into electronic stuff. I had a Simmons kit for a while, and I knew how to work all that stuff and program Linn drums and all that stuff. So
smart man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I heard though in an interview you said recently, so you were saying, you still have that hustle in you. You had said this fella had told you, every gig, play it like it's your last because you still don't know.
yeah, yeah, this is this old guy I played with in Ohio, man. And he had all these funny sayings. And then one day just before I left to go to LA, I went to see him. He's old now. He's in his late 80s now. He's still around. The sax player in the band. And he goes, John, when you go out there, man, play every gig like it's the last gig you ever gonna do, man. And I was like, he's right, though. It's a very simple concept, but if you approach a lot of things in your life that way, you go, okay, especially gigs, because it's when you're doing a gig, it's a performance. You're putting yourself out there, and you're really in the moment when you're playing with a live band, um, or if you're in a recording studio, you're putting yourself down on tape, and that's history, man. It's audio history when you're recording.
Very.
It doesn't go
Yeah.
away. And so, yeah, I kind of whenever I start getting a little bit full of myself or getting like, hey man, you've been on the road. It's like, sometimes you're like, oh, fuck's sake, here we go again. Right.
Yeah.
You get the
3 nights in a row or whatever.
hotel or the bus blues or something. Right. And then you just go, what if today's the last one of these I'm ever going to do? And that changes your whole perspective a little
So
bit.
in that vein, I never did a van tour. Did you ever do one, John?
I did a van tour with Al Stewart.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because when I worked with Al Stewart, it was later on. He had already had all those big hits, and
yeah,
had 2 or 3 big hits. But yeah, we did a van tour, man. It was funny.
I watched this video before we got on, and it was one of Peter's bands, Jackass, and written on the back window of the van, it said, "This guy was the former drummer of Bad Religion."
brutal, dude, brutal. Packed in 12 deep into a van with the guy selling merch and sound. And I was like, what, 46, 47? I just had my first son. I'm like, oh, it's time to wrap this up. But John, so you're here in the 90s. So it's in the 90s, you're kind of struggling some. What happened? You met Dee Murray, and then that led to this job of a lifetime?
Yeah. Well, actually, going all the way back to when I first moved to LA, right, in the mid 80s, when I had an original band, I met this guy, Bob Birch, this fantastic bass player singer. And I must have met him doing a wedding or something like that, right? But my original band was my main focus. I just did these other little side gigs to make some extra dough. And I said, hey, man, we need a bass player. You want to be in the band? Sure. And then him and I became like best buddies after that. I mean, we just like, we love to write music together and hang out. We went bike riding, whatever, we became really close. And he eventually meets Davey Johnstone on a side project that they're doing, some side band that he got involved in. They needed a bass player, and got hired to be in Elton's band because Dee Murray passed away, right?
Right.
And Dee Murray passed away right when Bob was playing with Davey. So next thing I know, my best friend's playing with Elton John. And I never once even gave it a thought that band was going to need somebody like me. That was not even ever in the cards. And so Bob and I continued to write music all the time. Bob had built a little home studio, and we were writing tunes and recording over there. And Davey came over one day to play some guitars for Bob. And Bob said, hey, and they played something that I had just sang on. And Davey goes, hey, who's that guy singing? And Bob goes, oh, I think you met him. He came to our show at the Bowl or the Forum. I forget where it was, but and he introduced me to Davey. Oh yeah, John. Yeah, I met him. He's cool and blah, blah, blah. And next thing I know, 2 weeks later, Davey calls me and says, I've got these 2 tunes I want you to come over and sing at our keyboard player's studio. And I was like, shit, okay. So that was the beginning of having to step up to the plate, right?
Sorry, what else? Sorry.
Well, basically, I went over to the studio and I sang these 2 tunes for them, and that was it. Thanks, John. That was great. They loved it, and nothing else happened. And then, in that strange little timing right there, is when I had actually left Chuck Negron's band, and then they asked me to come back again because I left to go do a little smooth jazz tour with Peter White, and then I guess the guy they got didn't work out. And I wasn't planning on going back into his band, but they called me. Now the smooth jazz tour stopped. And I said, yeah, man, I'll come back and play with you guys for a while. Not knowing that a month later, Davey was going to call and go, hey, I'm auditioning people for, the job as background vocalist. And I know you also play drums and percussion, and we need someone that can play drums if they have to. And I need someone that can play percussion and electronics and and cover all the vocal parts. And so I had a pretty good shoe-in shot to be in the band. And so so I know I'm being confusing. So so Davey called me and said, yeah, I'm going to audition a couple guys. And I just basically went over to his house. He said, I have one gig in Germany. That's all there is. This one gig in Germany we're going to do because Elton's kind of, getting his feet wet again. He hadn't toured for a year or so.
Did he
And
tell you who the other guys were that you were auditioning against?
well, it turned out he hired two of us. This guy, Billy Trudel, this really great kind of bluesy singer with a really high, powerful voice. And so Billy and I, there's another guy who lives in Vegas. I don't remember his name exactly.
I mean, if
But
he
he was more of a guitar player. He was a guitar player, singer, and we already had two guitar players, Davey and John Jorgensen. So I mean, I was really at the right place at the right time with the right skills. You know what I mean? Like I had this skill set that it's an odd skill set, right? Because mainly because I was really focusing on singing. I was studying with a voice teacher at that time. Also, I was taking voice lessons once a week from this guy in North Hollywood who was, teaching people like Michael McDonald, and he had a major crop of big time singers that were studying with him. So I was really honed in on my vocal skills at the time, and so when I went over to audition for Davey, he didn't care about any of my drumming or percussion. He just wanted to hear me sing. So I went over to his house. He sat there with an acoustic guitar, me and Billy, and he goes, "Okay, Billy, you sing this part. John, you sing this part." We did like Rocket Man, Don't Let the Sun Go Down. He would just give us a part. Here, sing the Oz, sing the heart high, Rocket Man, whatever. And we sat there in his kitchen with his acoustic guitar, and he goes, "Okay, man, sounds great. I think you guys are both in."
You're going to Germany.
Yeah, you're going to Germany.
Wow.
And I go, "Well, what about Elton?"
Oh,
And he goes, "Oh, we'll see Elton and when we're going to go rehearse in France for 4 days. So you'll see him over there." And he goes, and I go, "Well, I wound up asking him later, like, are you in the band?" And he goes, "Well, we'll see what Elton says." So,
That's cool. So, I mean, honestly, hearing you, you're very driven. I mean, do you get intimidated? Like during that, I'm sure you were a bit nervous because this is a life-changing thing in your career, but it didn't sound like you were intimidated.
Oh, I'm totally intimidated, man. I'm intimidated when there's other musicians around. Local, normal like fans, that doesn't bother me at all, or music fans doesn't bother me. But man, I'll tell you what, if one of my family members are in the audience, or or another musician, like you guys or something, as someone that I, like, I mean, one time, not long ago, we played in this gig in Italy, in Milan, and Sting decides to come to the gig.
Oh my God.
And he doesn't want to sit out front. He wants to sit right like 10 feet from me on the left, because I set up on the edge of the stage right there. And every time I'm like over here playing the congas, he's sitting right there staring at me.
Man, he's the stalker. He's the stalker in the song.
I'm sitting there with his, he wanted to sit near the monitor board. He was sitting by the monitor board, right? He didn't want to be down with the fans. I get that, right?
Yeah.
But every time I turn, he's just like, there he is. I'm like, oh God, man. People like that, right? Or people have come to see us, like Lars from Metallica was in the audience one night, and Taylor from the Foo Fighters.
Taylor, right?
He lives like right over in Hidden Hills, actually.
Right.
And he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to come to the show, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Oh, dude, really, man?" Those are the guys that make me nervous, where I, pretty much, piss myself. But
before I forget, I just want to step back for two quick questions from back to when you were a kid. So the first one is, and it's going to sound funny, but there's sincerity. And I saw this meme, and it said that your first drum kit was your desk at school.
Yeah.
The question is, I'm a kid and I want to play the drums. Is hitting my desk and messing around my desk, do you think that's helpful, you guys? Because Peter just said he wishes he had done a little bit more studying and whatnot, but is that helpful?
Any way that you get rhythm into you, I think is helpful. Whether you're banging on your steering wheel and your dashboard, or your desk at school, or you know, when drums are such uh, a physical thing. You know, you feel drums. You know, when you hit that drum head with a stick, man, it goes all the way. It's not like a guitar where you're feeling it more in your fingers or whatever, or piano. When you're playing the drums, man, you feel it, right, Peter? You feel it everywhere. It's in your spine. It's in your, you know, you're sitting on a drum throne. It's in your
Very
butt,
physical.
in your
Right.
legs. You know, and I think
Yeah.
any way that you can get that that rhythmic feeling and get it inside of your body, I think is a good thing. That's why you see these kids that grow up, you know, in cultures where it's so rhythmic. African kids, man, you know,
Yeah.
it's such
Amazing.
a rhythmic culture. They just they have time, you know, and it's like it's amazing. And you go, well, how do they get like this? Well, it's just they're surrounded with it, and probably not many people saying, "Stop banging on that chair," right? You know, they're like, "No, we want you to bang on the chair."
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Joel, I think to your question, it really does it matter when you're young if there's if it's inside you, you'll bang on what you have, you know,
That's a good
pans,
point.
pots, counters, whatever. If you feel that, then you're gonna find what's ever around to, you know,
Your thing. So
your
you're
hand.
a kid. What bands did you guys want to work for? Like, what was your, you know, who was the band that you wish you could have been sitting in that seat?
Oh, you go
Well,
ahead, Peter.
I'll just go to John. No, John, mine's not that important. I just wanted to, John, this is on you. I'm more curious about you because to me, you've got a gig of a, you know, gig of a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
I,
That's what I'm
I
imagining. You know, I was my lead in was going to be some of these guys that you wanted to play for as a kid. You've met now. I'm assuming. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, it's funny because Elton was really not some. He was really someone that was never sort of on my radar. I mean, of course, I knew his music, and you know, and obviously he's different than most artists because he's not like you know, if like you just do a club gig or something, you're usually not throwing in an Elton John song, maybe Benny and the Jets or something like that, right? Or Honky Cat or something. But not many club bands went out and played Elton John songs. So, I mean, was I a fan? Of course, you know, you have. How can you not be a fan
Yeah.
after like Yellow
right.
Brick Road and Captain Fantastic and stuff like that? But I was, you know, bands that I was studying. Well, if you want to say Sting, I mean, dude, I'd love to play with Sting. He was always, especially like,
You and Vinny.
you know,
Yeah.
after the Police, and then Sting started to do his own thing that was super creative, right? Super creative. Um, I mean, I kind of grew up. I played through every Chicago record there was,
Uh-huh.
right?
Danny.
Yeah, so I was really into that, and of course, I met Danny Seraphin, and it was like, oh my God, man, he was a god to me, and you know, and bands like I definitely like the kind of horn bands like Blood, Sweat, and Tears, but
Uh-huh.
I was also like into those kind of soul bands too, like even the blue-eyed soul bands like Hall and Oates
Oh no.
or like Michael McDonald, of course, the Doobie Brothers, right? I actually got asked to play with the Doobie Brothers, but I couldn't do it, so I was kind of bummed out. That would have been fun though.
Yeah.
But
Just
you know,
So
it's a Peter question here. So, you know, you grew up with the guys that you happen to be in the band with. It's a totally different way from.
I was their roadie. Okay, I was their roadie, and I didn't know how to play drums. And their drummer was this great jazz cat playing playing punk rock, right? And he was really great, but he was super annoying. He was such an annoying motherfucker. And they were just like, we got to be in a band with this fool. And they had just recorded, and they had just recorded their first album. You know, they were young, you know, green. And Jay, um, I was his roadie, and one day they just got in a fight. They were like, Jay, later days, you know. And I was their roadie, and they're like, "Oh, you've got a drum set, right?" I was like, "Oh, no, I don't." So I went to my mom, who was a school teacher. So you know, she didn't earn that much bread, right? And I was like, I have this chance. Can you buy me a set? So, John, we went down to Pro Drum, right? And Stan and Jerry's dad
Oh,
was
wow.
there, right? Yeah, and my mom was like, "This is my son. He's never really played, yada yada yada." So they totally hooked me up, right, with a little four-piece Slingerland set,
Nice.
and I took it home, and I'm like, "How do you use this?" And because I was a roadie, Joel, I was like, "Great, I can set this up." Now I'm like, "Now you got to learn to play them. Yeah, I got to learn to play it, right?" So I just put on the records. I put on Bowie and Zeppelin and into punk rock, and that's really how I learned, just by ear.
Yeah. Yeah, but you must have learned too by sitting, you set the drums up today. Obviously, you watched them play
Set up
every
for
day.
Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and I remember they're like, okay, well, learn the songs, and the songs were pretty much one or two beats, pretty much, were the same, and through all the songs. And they're like, you have 2 weeks, we've got this gig. And I was like, that wasn't yeah, well, what was, sorry, it wasn't 2 weeks. It was like about 4 weeks. So I just like, 6, 8 hours a day. And my poor mom and dad were probably just like, they wanted to probably kill me. But but I was a pretty crazy kid. So they saw I was inside being productive, right? So um, I learned the songs to, the best I really could. I went to Greg's garage, and they're like, "Okay, let's go." Right? And I was talking about being nervous. Oh my God, John, I was missing my pants, brother.
Uh,
And so we played 5, 6 songs. It was terrible. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's my drum career, right? And they all huddled, blah 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 blah. I'm like, oh, this is humiliating, right? And they came back and said, good, you're in the band. Go home and learn 5 more songs. So that's the genesis of how and that was a great part of being in a punk rock band. That if I had walked in to John, a real band, soul band, prog rock band, they'd be later days.
but how
So
old
that
were you?
gave me a way in.
How?
I was 15.
Oh my God.
15,
Oh
16.
my
So
God.
that gave me a way in because punk rock was like, if you can't play, fine, learn, right? So that got me a way in. And for the first year, after every gig, it's like, I'm going to be kicked out. I know I'm going to be kicked out. And Greg, the singer, was we were so tight. He always had my back. Brett and Jay were always like, "We gotta kick him out. He fucking sucks." And Greg was always, "Just wait, be patient, be patient, be patient."
So you're
And
playing like high school parties, probably, right?
by then, some parties, Joel, but it was like mostly like like the Starwood or like the punk club Godzillas. Um, like the Starwood, or
Wow.
just halls, and the cops would always come. It was a scene. There were riots, so it was just like a whole scene back then, right? But it it gave me a chance to actually buy time to actually learn little bit about the drums, right?
Wow.
And it bought me time to where a year later I felt confident enough to actually be in the band. So
Cool.
yeah, but like I said, if I could go back, I would have found someone like John so I could learn
Yeah,
to
but you didn't
be so I
know.
could
You
learn
didn't know
more.
you were
But
going to be a drummer.
yeah,
But dude, you were so
that was my
young though, man.
story.
You were so
Yeah,
young.
I was 16.
And you're
Oh,
Yeah, I
playing
was
to
16.
start with. I mean, you're playing at like real gigs. That's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, well, it would go between real gig show and then punk rock shows would be like us and like Black Flag or X at some
Did
crazy
Pettibone
hall
do any
that they would
flyers?
rent out.
Did Pettibone do any flyers?
Sorry,
Did Raymond Pettibone
not
do any
not for
flyers?
us. No, no,
No,
no.
I never
He
saw
was
any.
all Black Flag stuff.
No,
No,
he did
he
other
was
stuff.
all
He did some social D posters and stuff. I just I'm not
SST
a big
stuff.
fan,
Right.
so that's cool. So
Yeah.
okay, so
No, but
you get this hookup. You're playing in your buddy's kitchen. You're passing the potatoes and you're playing away. and you I go like this, even though you don't play guitar, but and you go and Elton's going to listen to you for the first time. What did he do?
Oh my God.
Well, he was,
Yeah.
he really couldn't have been any nicer. I mean, we were rehearsing in a theater in the south of France, in Nice, because he had. I'm not sure exactly why we rehearsed there, because maybe he might have just moved there. Actually, he bought a house. That's what it was. He bought a house in Nice, so we were going to rehearse in this theater for 4 days, and I really kind of walked in, and I had a pretty small percussion setup ready for that gig, because I just really brought what I needed to bring, and I didn't want to go crazy. And but they set me up. Like now, I'm on the other side of the stage from him. I'm pretty far away from him, but at that day, they set me up like right behind him, like right next to him. So if he's sitting at the piano and he turns to his left, I'm like right there, right? So
Oh my
he came
God.
in, and he couldn't have been any nicer. He was introduced himself, and we talk for a second, blah blah blah, and he but he's all business. Okay, let's go, and he starts going, and we're playing, and he's just looking at me, staring at me the whole time. I'm going, oh my God,
Oh.
stop looking at me, man.
Oh.
But he was great. He didn't say afterwards anything like nice job or sounds great or anything. We went through all the songs. He got up, let's go. He got in the car, off he went.
Wow.
He left, and I remember our bass player Bob comes over to me and he goes, "I think you got a gig for life, possibly."
Oh my God.
That's what he said to me.
Why did
So
he think so? Why? What was the
I think Elton must have said something to Bob, but he's very shy, and especially about giving compliments. He didn't say anything to me.
well, it's very English. It's very English.
Yeah, and so he probably went over to Bob and said something like, "All right, we like this guy," you know.
Awesome.
How long did it take you to feel part of the clique?
Oh, it took quite a while. I mean, because that's those guys, they'd all kind of it was pretty much the same band for quite some time.
Sure.
So it took me a couple of years before you really feel like you're one of the guys, because you know what it's like. You join a band, and everybody has their little cliques and their little group of guys they hang out with. So, but it was a good thing, though. It was always no. Let's put it this way: nobody was an asshole in that band, because everybody's been in a band where there's always some guy that you just go, oh fuck, I can't stand this guy, right? There's always that one guy, but this band, man, everybody was really nice, and I will say, Davey Johnstone, the guitar player, he was a stickler for the band being good. He would rehearse us, and he didn't put up with like, well, I didn't quite learn that part, or you know I'll get that tomorrow. No, no, man. It was like, you better. This is the kind of band where you showed up at rehearsal and you already knew all your parts. It wasn't like there's a lot of bands that show up and they're gonna, okay, we're gonna learn this song. Our band doesn't work that way. Our band is, you learn the song on your own time, and you show up and you better know the song, or you're gonna get some grief from somebody. God forbid we would rehearse without Elton for a couple days, just so Davey would make sure that we knew the song, and then Elton would come in. But man, I have to say, I have never done a rehearsal where it's like, okay, let's put the record on and listen to it and figure this out. No, man, you show up and you know the song, and I like that, because it just made it made you have to be a little more serious about it. There was one guy that played with us one time, and he showed up and was like, "Okay, oh yeah, well, how's that song go again?" And it was like it was one of Elton's, it was one of Elton's hits. He's going, "Oh, I didn't know we were going to play that song." And does anybody have a record? Can you put it on? And Dave was like, "You got to be fucking kidding me, man!"
Bye bye.
Yeah. So
what's your favorite
So So John, what's it like playing with freaking Nigel? I mean, I think of him as one of the greatest rock drummers of all time. I
yeah.
mean, Nigel. I mean, I think of like Someone Saved My Life Tonight, just like those Tom. Booka, ga, 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 da, ga, da. I mean,
Yeah.
he's one of my favorites. What's it like playing with him? Is it just like amazing, or
He just
he's
has,
always a little bit behind the beat. You know, he has his own style.
yeah. He's, you know, he has such a big fat pocket, right? He plays way behind the beat most of the time, and
Yeah.
it took me a while. Um, it took me a while being growing up playing a lot of jazz and super precise music, to really start to learn to fall back into that pocket a little bit. So in my world, I had to adjust my playing a little bit to get into his pocket because man, he could like his time is so interesting because he could like go through a thing and then pull it way back or slow it down and then put it right back in there again and not slow it down in a way where where some drummer would slow it down because he couldn't pull off what he was trying to play, kind of a thing, or speed up through a fill. He would pull it back for the emotion. He'd pull the
Right.
time back a tiny bit and then pow, and then land on it, and then it just kind of rockets forward. Um, and of course, all those. He's like the master of those like drag triplet kind of dot 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 those drag
Right.
triplet kind of fills in the perfect spot. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
It's like he
he reminds me in a way of John Bonham in a sense. They're so musical,
hmm
you know.
yeah.
They play the drums like it's a voice.
Yeah.
Their voicing of their drum parts are just astonishing.
Well,
I
he's a
just
great
can't
singer.
make,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, right. I could just imagine you two in that band is just amazing.
He's a great singer, and I think part of that the way because sometimes he put a fill in a place where you wouldn't expect it, and but it's because, and I always ask him about this. Why did you put the fill there? Because it's not at the end of the phrase leading into the next section. He goes, because I'm always singing along with what Elton's doing,
Uh-huh.
and it's like he's seeing the vocal phrase. So he would put a drum fill in at the end of a phrase as opposed to the end of a section, right? Instead of like from a
Section,
verse
right?
into a chorus, he'd just throw it in the middle of a verse somewhere, leading into the next vocal phrase. And I was always like, man, it's sometimes it would throw me like, wow, it's you don't expect it there. But then when you hear it back, you say, was that a mistake? But then you listen back and you go, it's perfect because it's not something anybody else would do, right? And it's just in the
Now,
right.
will he play what he practices, or live? Are there parts where you guys jam out and it's
He
spontaneous?
I would say for the most part he is a creature of habit.
Uh-huh.
He's a creature of habit. He plays, if he does a part, he wants to perform that part the same way he did it. I mean, we have some laughs because he, like that big drum fill in "Don't Let the Sun Go Down," before the last chorus, a dun dun dicka dun dun dicka dun,
Yeah, yeah.
don't let the sun. You know, he was doing it in
Remember
the
those?
wrong place,
Uh-huh.
and nobody ever called him on it because I just thought, well, that's where he wants to play it. I don't give a shit. But he was
Uh-huh.
playing it in the first or the second chorus when he should have been playing it in the third chorus, right? And one day he just
Last chorus out.
one day he goes, I've been playing that fucking fill in the wrong fucking place. I can't fucking believe I was fucking doing that. It was like hilarious, man.
You told him, or
No, he said it. It just don't. He was listening to the record one day, listening to the
Wow.
original. Because
Oh,
it's like
gee.
when you play those songs that many times, we do 150 shows a year, right? We're on the road 200 days a year.
2,263 shows, John.
That's how many times I've played Rocket Man.
So what's your favorite song to still play?
I still love to play. I mean, I grew up with.
What's your top three? Well, what's your top three?
Top three. And then your turn after, Peter. I'd love to hear what your favorite three Bad Religion tunes are.
I mean, I
don't care about Bad Religion. This is what I care about.
We do. Hell yeah, we do. He's so humble. It's really bad, John. Ridiculous.
It's our life.
He's been like this as long as I've known him, too.
Hear this? John, did you hear this? Hold on. Can you hear it?
No, I didn't hear it.
You can't hear it? It's
Sounded
Someone Saved
silent.
My Life.
Oh, someone
Oh,
said.
sorry. Hold on.
Is that your ringtone?
That song,
I
that song helped me. I was heartbroken. I swear to God. I was like 21. I thought I was going to marry this one girl. Thank God we did not. But she broke my heart. And I was like, my life is over. And that song, just that song, helped me through a really hard stage in my life. It just shows you, like these songs really are life rafts.
I can't tell you, man. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. I've heard people say that to me, and that's, that is really the magic, the beauty of those two guys, Bernie and Elton, those lyrics and those melodies together. I cannot tell you how many times people have said that song either got me through a really hard time or, an illness or a sad. It's amazing, man, that people grab onto those things and they just become not so much a super fan, but he changed their life with a piece of music.
Right.
Which
It's
is phenomenal.
It's what makes us love music.
It does. It makes you love music, but I guess I never realized, the healing power of his music. I mean, sure, I got in the band and I'm like, I'm playing with Elton John. Holy crap, but I never realized the power of his music until I started, playing with him for a long time. And, I'll tell you something that's really, really heavy is when I've sat, like you said, I've done 2,000 shows, but I've watched that front row bawling their eyes out sometimes to the point where I can't sing because I get choked up. And it's usually songs like that, Someone Saved My Life and Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, or Candle in the Wind or something like that, But I see people bawling their eyes out and it gives me the chills and I get all choked up because you can see when someone is literally, touched deeply by something and then they're hearing him, right, he's right there and he's doing it. And I've seen people, like when we changed the set, I mean, just to show the power of how many hits this guy's had, we changed the set at one time where the first, I don't know, it was like the second half an hour or something like that, it was just a barrage of Leave On, Tiny Dancer, Candle in the Wind, Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, Someone Saved My Life. And I've seen people drop back into their seats, like they're standing up, and then all of a sudden we go into like Tiny Dancer, and then they just have to sit. They're gone. They're done. They're done. So it's an incredible thing. Man.
What's it? Yeah, this is what I was really wanting to know. So here you are, John. You're playing maybe 240 shows, 200 shows a year, year after year after year. Then COVID hits. All right. Then COVID hits. No more. How have you adjusted and what have you learned? Have you learned anything new about your love for music during this last year and a half?
That's a good question. Well, I've learned that I have to continue to be creative. Maybe I am driven a little bit, but I feel like if I had a beer with one of my good friends, Bruce Watson, the other day. I don't know if you know him as a guitar player in Foreigner. He's kind of a LA Valley guy, grew up here, but and he said, man, I found out that if I'm not being creative in some way, I don't feel like I'm living, and I think I realized that I mean, like I went kayaking today, and I like to do all these other things too, and I like to be out in nature and outside, but I realize I have to have that. Maybe it's like a painter or something where I have to be making something or creating something, and I've learned that through this COVID thing, that void was easily filled when we're on the road and doing gigs all the time. You're playing every night, and you know, you got 3 hours on stage and you're cooked by the end of it, and you're begging for a day off sometimes. But I think that's one of the main things I realize is that I want to stay. I want to stay. You know, even if it's just writing songs and stuff like that. Yes, it's great getting paid and making great money, and of course it is, right? Uh,
Sure.
but I think the break is I think the break is good sometimes. You know,
You appreciate, you appreciate when you go back, you'll be
it's like
excited.
it's a little bit like my drumming skills. I mean, when I first started to play with Elton, there was a period of time there where I didn't even have a chance to really sit and play the drum kit for a long time. And then we took a little break, and I went back to the drums, and I was like, wow, you know, a couple guys hired me to do a few gigs, and I was like, man, it's fresh, you know, it's fresh and it's new, and I don't feel like I'm playing the same crap that I played before, right? I'm playing different kind of things, and I'm searching for different sounds and different feels, and uh, so this little break of ours, I think, has been a little bit like that, where I'm back, I'm back, I'm searching again. You know, I'm searching what makes me happy and
Sure.
and which way are my creative juices going to go. Um, uh, it's a never ending. You know, we'll see where this thing goes, man. Who knows how much longer it's going to go on.
Is there a deep cut in Elton John song that you wish you guys were playing, that you guys would play? Like on one of the records, a song that you just happen to like a lot that you guys never played live?
I'll tell you what, I've been fortunate enough to play a lot of those deep cuts. There's this thing there's once tune, Amarina, which we have not really played, which is an unusual cut, and My Father's Gun. We've we It's like those, we'll rehearse it, and then if he doesn't really just feel it, he'll just go, nah, I don't want to do it. Fuck it. But then you rehearse it, and we just tried to do Island Girl, which,
Oh,
Yeah, that's a great song.
you know,
oh my God. You and those backups? Oh my God.
oh my God, it was so hard too. And I was trying to play marimba and sing the background parts at the same time. God, it was so difficult. But we pulled it off. It was really good, but Elton just didn't. I don't know, he just, you know, that song's a little bit, it's possibly a little bit racist, right? So you have to be
Oh
careful,
yeah.
you know,
Right.
the lyrics. And I think a lot of a lot of things came together at the same time. Like he was seeing the lyrics come up on the teleprompter or something about, you know, the girl has skin like black tar or something like that. And
Uh,
it's like, oh man, can
Not
we?
today.
Yeah, but
2021. Right.
that would be a couple of them. You know,
Yeah.
we were lucky to do like Empty Garden, and at one point we played the whole Yellow Brick Road album. So we
Oh
did like
wow.
60
Awesome.
years on. Oh man.
Wow.
I always wanted to do more of that. I always tell Elton, you know, why don't we do like because Steely Dan at one time they did 3 albums, 3 different nights. I think they did, you know, like Asia, Gaucho, and
Right.
Pretzel Logic,
That's a
the one
logic.
before it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I told Elton, God, that'd be so cool if we did that. And he was going, he said, I'll never remember all those songs, right?
Right.
So, but I've been
Amen.
very fortunate to play some of those beautiful, like Harmony, um, you know, some of those beautiful deep cut songs of his. We never know, man. He's always taught. One day he wrote us this huge list of all these tunes, and I still have it. You know, yeah, still have it written down. He did it all in like handwriting, right? He wrote all these tunes that he wanted to play someday that were
Huh.
all they were all weird tunes. Like a lot of them, I had to go find the record and put it on. I didn't even know what they were.
Huh.
Yeah.
What's it like then? So you're playing, and so Sting, for example, was sitting next to you. But I mean, I'm imagining that there'd be some mega celebrities of musicians, actors, or whatever, and they're crying because of the songs that you guys are playing. What's that like where you're performing?
Yeah, that's. I mean, some of those guys that have come to the show, like Ringo, came one night. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh.
You know, or McCartney, right? We
It's in
did
Ohio.
show with McCartney sitting back there. I think those artists that it's it's really cool to see those. Um, what show did we do? We did the Grammys the year before last, and we did a special tribute to Elton, and all these different artists came and played, an Elton John song. Like John Legend did one, Ed Sheeran did a song, Keith Urban. I mean, it was the cream of the crop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of them were really like during rehearsal. I remember even Miley Cyrus. She was very touched by. She did Tiny Dancer, right, and she got all choked up, doing that song because she realized, you know, th- all those songs have history with people, like you were saying, right? That uh, everybody has some kind of history with a song like that, and it's fantastic, man, to see people of that. Like the guys, like it's funny because like the guys in Metallica, they love Elton, and they come to our shows whenever they can, and it just blows me. Like I was in a hotel, and James comes. I was checking out of the hotel, and he's in the lobby. We were in Amsterdam, which was just so strange, right? And he comes charging up to me, and he's a pretty big guy, Hey man, that was fucking great. And I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And oh, James, like, oh man, and I had to put two and two. I didn't know he was there. I said, did you come to the show last night? He was, yeah, man. He goes, we just loved it, man. We sat out at the mixing board, and that's a compliment, to hear.
Great thing. But Stone
Yeah,
Temple
it's weird,
Pilots,
John.
they would too. Metallica guys would watch the shows, and you're sitting there looking around, and you're like,
With Bad Religion. Yeah.
with Bad Religion, they watch.
All those guys. Yeah. Brett, you know Brett Gerwitz, Brett and Jay. I mean, they're obsessed with they were obsessed with Elton John.
Hmm.
We would be on the road, and they would play Madman. The whole friggin'
Oh
album.
yeah.
We're talking about 17-year-old kids who 1 second would be playing like Black Flag album, then time for Elton John. I mean, this crosses all. He's one of the few
Yeah.
that could really cross all genres. It's really, really weird. It's just amazing.
Do both of you guys think so? I know you're both really physically active. Peter used to do running. I think you were boxer. You were boxing at one point. And I know John, you're super active guy. Do you think it's necessary for you guys to be physically fit to drum?
I think not physically fit to drum, but to live.
Yeah. So it's more of a lifestyle thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 56. There are days, and I'm dealing with a few things. There are days when I wake up and go, I really, if I want another good 14 years left of being really active,
Yeah.
you really have to. It's like practicing drums. I have to put in at least 30, 40 minutes, like per day.
Yeah.
If not, if I take off a few days or like a week, I really feel my age.
Mhm.
And
then, speaking of health, then, so not to get too much into it, John, but you had some pretty serious health issues when you were out of the country recently, and Elton and Co. took care of you like family.
Yeah.
It was, as a buddy, I was worried about you. We all were, but it was pretty cool to hear how well they took care of you and how much they cared about you.
Yeah. Yeah. They, it is a family, and it really just, when it comes down to something like that, if you have to go into the hospital, like I had to have a defibrillator put in because I have some weird atrial fibrillation, some weird thing called torsades where your heart just kind of twists away, and I didn't know that I had it until I got to Australia. And when I went into the hospital to get checked up there, they said, you should have a defibrillator in you, sir, and but when shit like that happens, they figure out a way. The guys got together, and it's all about. It's like, oh man, what do you mean you're going to have this surgery? You can't do that in the middle of a tour. It was like,
yeah, that's crazy that you're out. You're not even, you're not in the U.S. You're in a different country. Your wife is there. I mean,
So did you have it there? Did you have
I had surgery. I wound up going in the hospital for almost 2 weeks.
Wow.
And it was interesting because there was a little bit of a lull in the tour, so I only missed
Uh-huh.
about 4 shows, and my and all the guys kind of like took over, and because some of the vocal parts that I sang, they switched their parts so they could jump on the more important vocal parts. And my drum tech,
No
um,
Ray Cooper.
well, Ray Cooper, he's kind of got his own little show
I
in
was just
our show,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, but some of the other parts were electronic parts, like samples that I played during the show, like the very last note, this big monster hit that ends the entire show, where Elton goes up on a conveyor belt, and uh, I play that very last sound. Well, um,
Uh-huh.
they got my drum tech. They basically, put him in my suit, and he goes, "Yeah, I can play those parts."
Cool.
And he's a good player, so he could go out there, and there was some kind of marching
Cool.
snare drum part that I do in the middle of Rocket Man. We added some things, so he played that, and so
That's
they figured
awesome.
out ways to cover for me, and it was all good. And yeah, I had to spend time in a hospital, and then that was right before Christmas, so I had the Christmas break to kind of recuperate. Um, but it was kind of freaky. But
Yeah.
hey, shit happens,
So
man.
how are you now?
I'm
How
fine now.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still cycle, and a lot, and I push my heart rate up,
Yeah.
and it's fine now. The doctor said just go back to living the way you live. He goes, God forbid you have one of these uh, events, they call them, where your heart doesn't, it just starts pumping super fast.
Uh-huh.
And if it does that, then the thing it'll give me a smack, it'll give me a shock, and put your
Okay.
heart back into the right rhythm. But
High tech.
yeah, super high tech stuff. My heart it'll beat like 230 beats per minute or something like that,
Uh-huh.
where it's not actually pumping any blood, it's just kind of flapping away in there. So it's an electronic issue. They don't know if it's hereditary. There's no saying where it comes from or how you get it, but our keyboard player had it too. And well, the more when you get something like this done, you start talking to people, and you realize a lot of people
Of course.
have it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but
Well,
the
I'm
good
glad
thing
you're
is,
okay, brother.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got some fun questions. So I did some internet researching
Oh,
on
good.
Elton John, and I'm going to play a game with you. How well do you know your boss? Are you ready? So
Okay.
the first one,
You can't cheat.
yeah, you can't cheat. We're
Yes,
going
I
to go.
can.
So I guess Elton names his pianos. How many pianos do you think you've been through with various names? And I don't know the answer, actually. So the first one's a freebie. I don't know.
Well, he has something like. Now I do know the names of some of them. Aretha is one, after Aretha Franklin. Nina, after Nina Simone.
Oh, yeah.
There's one named Kay, which is this famous British piano player, Kay somebody. And there I've run out. But
You're,
I think there's about 6 of them. There's Kay, Nina, Aretha, and I can't remember the rest of them, but they
all
are.
right. It was good.
Yeah.
Elton changed his middle name. What was his original? What was his birth middle name, and what did he change his name to?
Let's see. He changed his name to Elton Hercules John.
That's right.
Yeah.
Peter, give him a.
His original name was
Ching-ching.
Reginald Dwight. Reginald Dwight. Oh, I don't know the third name. That's
Kenneth.
terrible.
Kenneth.
Kenneth, yes. Oh, wow.
Elton's stage moniker is a combination of the names of who?
Long John Baldry, I believe.
That's right.
And I don't know where the Elton thing came from, actually.
A saxophonist by the name of Elton Dean.
Yeah, Elton Dean.
Did you ever meet either of those guys?
No. Mm-mm.
Cool.
No. I think those were people from when he was, obviously, those guys are probably not even around anymore.
They're both passed away. Yeah, I checked. Yeah. Okay. In 1974, Elton coaxed what artist to come up on the stage with him to perform? It would be the last time he performed in public.
John Lennon.
That's right. That's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah. And you know how he did that? You know the story behind how he got
let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Well, John Lennon was working on his solo record, and he was working on the song "Whatever Gets You Through the Night." Whatever gets you through the night. All right, all right. And he asked Elton to play piano on it. He may have sang on it too, but Elton was playing piano on that song. I mean, he's played on a lot of records with people. He was a pretty big session player, but now he's already a huge pop star. It's so he asked Elton to play on the record, and they had such a great time that Elton said, "I'll play on this song," because they would fuck with each other all the time, right? They became such great friends, and he said, "I'll play on this song, but if it goes to number one, you have to promise that when I play in New York City," because he lived there, you'll come down to the Garden and sit in with us. And Lennon goes, "This song will never make it to fucking number one. Of course, you're on, Sure as shit, man. Song goes to number one." So this is good. So this is a crazy story, right? John Lennon was broken up with Yoko at the time. And he was seeing somebody or something like that. I mean, he was seeing another girl, right? He's broken up with Yoko. So Lennon shows up. He comes down to Madison Square Garden. And Elton tells this. Well, Davey and Elton tell this story because, I mean, Nigel was there. You go, right?
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. They said that backstage, John Lennon was so nervous that he had to throw up before the show.
No kidding.
Yeah. Wow. He was so nervous. He wanted to know if there was any pot he could smoke. And those guys really didn't, they said, "Well, I'm sure we could come up with a doober somewhere."
Yeah, when was the last time he had played live? Do you think it was just because he was with Elton, or?
The last time he played live was with the Beatles.
Oh, so it was, oh, wow.
Yeah, that was the last time that was the last time anyone had actually seen John Lennon on a stage. Was the last gig he did with the Beatles, right? So on that rooftop thing, I think. So
Right.
So he's
Apple Music.
backstage. He has to puke in a bucket. He's so nervous. He has to give Davey his guitar to tune it because his hands are shaking, right? So he barely can get his shit together. But who's backstage hanging out? Yoko. So basically, Elton says John Lennon walks out on stage. Elton introduces him. "We have a special guest for you tonight, John Lennon." And he said he walked out on stage and he said, "I'll kid you not, there was a literal 10-minute standing ovation." Now you can put your timer on for 10 minutes, right?
A long time.
And I would have thought, okay, bullshit, he's yanking my chain or he's making up. But then I hear the same story from Davey in another conversation. I hear the same story from Nigel. Ray Cooper will tell you the same story. Elton tells you the same story. People that were at the show, 10-minute ovation. It just went on and on and on. And then it would lull and then it would start again. And then he said it was the craziest thing he's ever seen. And then they did, I forget, they did that song, I guess. And then John Lennon goes backstage, runs into Yoko. They get back together again. They have a baby.
Wow.
Poor May.
Yeah. They get back together, they get married, they have a baby, and Elton becomes the godfather of the baby.
Oh,
Wow.
Wow, that's beautiful.
What a night.
Right. Crazy story.
What a night. Yeah.
So next question.
Okay. That's one I got for you for the questions. How did Elton meet Bernie Taupin?
Well, supposedly the story goes, I think Dick James, who became Elton's publisher for a while, he had like a little music publishing company, and this guy Bernie comes in there, and he was sort of a songwriter, but more of a lyricist. And he came in there looking for someone to, I know what it was. I take that back. Bernie had put an ad in a local paper, I think.
Yeah.
Bernie put an ad in a local paper. And Yes, and Elton answered the ad.
Amazing, right?
Recycler.
Right, he answered the ad. It's sort of like what's that paper we had here? Uh,
The recycler.
No, you're talking about the Valley Times or whatever, the local one, the Valley Scene.
No, LA music scene, or what was that?
LA Connection.
Music Press.
Oh, the kind of music.
Oh, okay.
Music Connection. Well, there was that LA
Right.
Weekly, Music Connection.
Yeah.
Was that called?
Right.
Yeah, so basically,
Yeah.
Elton saw it in the newspaper. Lyricist looking for songwriter comes over, and they start. He sort of kind of half moved into Elton's house, lived with Elton and his mother there at the house, and were writing songs. And they write your song.
Wow.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. It's
That's
right.
made it
Yes.
happen, right? I mean, did Topham come to a lot of the shows?
Justin.
Bernie comes to a lot. Bernie comes to shows when he lives here. He lives up in up around Santa Barbara somewhere.
You want to give us his address?
I miss LA.
Yeah, 4773. Actually, I don't have his
I
address.
miss LA.
I think he lives in San Ynez, right above Santa Barbara, up there.
So nice.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Peter just moved. He's up in where are you, Seattle now? Where you're Washington State, right?
Seattle, John. We moved to West Seattle. My wife got a really good job up here. And she's actually from here, so I have a great view of the water. Beautiful house. But I miss this place so much.
Yeah.
And I know last 5-10 years, it's the cities had a hard time, but to me it's still home. It will be home until the day I die.
Yeah. I mean, you were born and raised here, right?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
born.
So were you raised in a house in Northridge? Is that where you learned the drums and everything?
Yeah. That's where it all started.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's beautiful up here. It really is.
Beautiful. And there's a nice. Have you met any of the guys in the music scene up there? Right?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. So I've already jammed with this guy who I know, and we've gone over some songs. So yeah, we're very blessed. We're very blessed, but it's still not home. I mean,
Yeah.
you could live someplace for a long time, but your heart is where
Yeah.
that's my heart is. It's, LA smells, the sights,
Oh yeah.
the basic pace of the city, but we're, like I said, we're really lucky. So,
It's been a long time, but do you miss Canada, you think, John?
Yeah, I go back. I mean, I still have I bought my parents' house in Ohio, so I still have it there. And
nice.
my niece lives there. She rents it from me, so she takes care of it. And but man, when I go back there, it's just like you said. I love it when I go back there. I can just relax. I mean, I don't know about LA as a place you relax in, but any place that you consider home, you relax, right? You just kind of let your guard down. I go back there and just sit in my yard and let the mosquitoes bite me. I'm completely happy.
Yeah. I had so many. We've got a lot of time, but so when you do get a day off, I used to I like art and whatnot, so I try to hit up the museums and stuff, and like Susie DeVille on Poison was interested in art. Try to drag him to go see something cultural. You got anybody that on the tour who'll go with you to go check stuff out? Because I see your photos. I mean, you go out a bit. You definitely make an effort to go check out the places that you're at.
Yeah, I go out a bit. I mean, our keyboard player Kim Bullard, he likes to get out and about, or and Davey likes to go out a lot. But for the most part, you're with these guys all the time, so it's
you want to get away. Yeah,
it's kind of cool actually, just kind of being on your own and making your own little. You usually wind up meeting up with people for dinner or drinks or something like that. But in the daytime, if you have a day off, I like to really, I am not shy about renting a car and driving on the wrong side. And like in Australia, I had a car all the time I could, and I would just go crazy places. I like to get out there as far out as I can get, and just of course, if there's some place that you have, someplace famous, like you got to go see it. I'm that guy I got to go see it. I have that.
Sure.
I'm tortured by that. Did you go to blah 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 while you were there? No, I didn't know. So now I have to go everywhere.
Yeah.
but
Well,
it's good, it's good to be
I'm going to
driven.
be interviewing this dude. He's a street busker in Glasgow, and
who?
he's a street
Who?
busker. His name is what's his
Oh,
name? The guy got 5 million hits for covering a song. That's How to Save a Life. Have you
Wow.
ever? I love the street busker stuff. I
Yeah,
eat it
me
up.
too.
It's so much fun. Have you ever sat in with one of those guys?
I don't think so, but I have you just reminded me of a quick funny story that Kim, our keyboard player, he heard this amazing accordion player busker in Italy. And he was more like one of these, am I allowed to say gypsy? I mean, he was kind of one of those
yeah.
guys you see, in a subway station. And he said the guy was amazing. So he said, look, I'll pay you to come back to my room. I want to record you because we always have everybody carries a little recording system with them. He gets this guy to come back to his room, and the guy brings like his wife and kids with him.
Room service.
To Kim's hotel room, and he could only play that one thing that he was playing in the subway. Kim said, "Well, no, I want you to play can you play these notes and this chord?" And he goes, "No, little. That's all he could do." And then he couldn't get rid of the guy. Couldn't get him to leave.
Great, that's really funny.
Yeah.
This guy's name is Ben Monteith, and I mean, I'm blown away. Millions and millions. He covered it great. He's very, very talented. But I love watching those guys. And Seal did one where he just randomly sees some guy, or I think it was a lady. He saw some lady and he stopped and he started singing with her. And it was interesting because I'm not knocking Seal, we're all fans, but it wasn't his key. So when he was singing the song, I was like, what's going on here? And then he said, let's do Kiss from a Rose. And then you're like, oh, wow. And it was so neat to see how it was a bit difficult because it's not his key. It was fascinating from a guy who doesn't play music. It was really neat. I love all that stuff. Yeah. Well, my friend.
Hey, John, really quick, we're talking about songs that were recorded 30, 40 years ago. Is there any band or any one that you've heard since you've had this last year off that you think we'll be talking about in 30 years?
Wow. That's a tough one there, man. I mean,
I won't be here, but I'm just saying there'll be time people will be like,
yeah. I think, some of these, some of these artists that I think are super talented. Well, let's say Bruno Mars for one. That guy's got so much talent. He doesn't know what to do with himself, right? He's just bubbling, But I think we still have to look at certain people this crazy little Billie Eilish, man. You got to look at her and go, wow, where's she gonna go with that career? Because she's not like a poppy pop artist like an Adele or something like that. She's kind of breaking her own little ground, and
she's great.
It's easy to hate her, or, it's easy to hate people like Taylor Swift and people like that because they're just they ram down our throat constantly, right? But then when you actually sit and listen to the music, sometimes songs will come on when I'm riding my bike. I'll put my my earbuds in and I'll be riding and I'll just put like some kind of random playlist that I don't even know what's going to come up, and I'll go, wow, that was a great song. And then I look and I go, Billie Eilish, wow, you know what I mean? So, I can't really say of any like bands that have come up that I can remember their name, but there is some great music out there, man. Some great music. The problem is
what are some of your favorite bands? Not just rock bands, not jazz or fusion or just plain rock bands. What are your are there any favorite bands when you go on your ride that you'll be like, oh, okay, I would like to play,
Yeah, I mean, I'm a sucker for all those. Of course, I'm a sucker for anything that's like Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
I'm not gonna pick new bands because I don't know them. I mean, I love the Foo Fighters, man.
Right, of course.
I really love the Foo Fighters. I just like what they do, the energy. You know,
Sounds
that's
great.
probably one of my favorite bands. And I always, I loved all those bands too, like Soundgarden,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
you know, and then Pearl Jam. I love that whole thing that
Pearl Jam,
came from
yeah, of
up,
course.
that came from up there. Um,
Right. Because it was song based. Right.
it was song based,
Yep.
yeah, and the,
Right.
yeah. But I'm still a sucker, man, for bands like Rascal Flatts and.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm still a sucker. I'll
Yeah,
tell you,
of
the guy
course.
that blew me away was when we did that Elton tribute. Keith Urban came in, and he sang
Right.
"Leave On," and I was, he blew me away, man. I knew he was great and everything, and super talented, but when you sing somebody else's song, especially as many times as I've heard Elton do that song, and someone like that comes in there and does it, um, I loved it. And he was a super nice cat too, super humble, but he's got tons of talent, man. Some of those country guys, when I least expect it, one of their songs will come in and I'll go like, wow, who's the guy? Oh, the Alzheimer's is going to set in. The guitar player of
That guy Chris something. That guy's amazing.
well, well, you just made me change my train of thought,
Oh,
but
sorry, I was trying to help. I hurt.
like Warren Hayes. I love Warren Hayes. Pretty much anything he does, I'm really into that guy. The guy with his name is Pete Priestley. Anyways, yeah, another one of those great country bands that are fantastic.
What are you listening to these days, Pete?
Jason Isbell.
Jason Isbell. All right.
Yeah, he's great. You should really check him out. Great, great songwriter, John. Very old 97 kind of just great. You'll Jason, last name is Isbell. I promise you. I promise you, John, you will
I'll
love
check
his
it out.
songs.
I'll check it out. Is it a rock thing?
Jason Isbell. I know Jason Isbell was in the old 97s, and it's like alt country. It's great. It's great. I think you would both love him. He's amazing, and so is his wife, who was in his wife is Amanda Shires, who was in Highway Highway Woman,
Hmm.
the old Highway Woman with what's her name, Brandy Carlisle,
Oh yeah, I love Brandy
and
Carlisle.
yeah, they formed a super group, a country group. They're called the Highway Woman, and
Okay.
their songs, John, are amazing too. Yeah. So I'm just turning you on to a couple.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, cool.
News.
I love
Yeah.
putting it on anything.
Really
It's like, there's just there's not enough time in the day to sit around and listen to music anymore. So I wind up doing it when I'm riding my bike, and then of course I can't
Yeah,
I can't stop and go pull out my phone and go, who was that? But I go, oh, I love that.
of course.
So I have to like really force myself to sit down and kind of pay attention to what's going on out there, because there's some beautiful artists out there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where have
No
you
doubt.
where
And
have you
that's
guys
what I
not
mean. I
played?
think,
Sorry, Peter.
huh?
I was going to say,
No, it's just
that you've probably played in more varied places than anybody else I would probably be able to talk to. I mean, where have you not played that you would love to go?
Egypt.
that's a real good question.
Yeah, we haven't played.
Cairo.
Yeah, we haven't played
At
in
the
Egypt.
pyramids.
That'd be great.
Right. But I have played in so many places, it's blows my mind. I haven't been to I've never played in Alaska because the market's not big enough there.
Alaska was great. We did a
Wow.
show there and it was cool.
I think Elton did that.
Yeah, you did.
solo.
Where?
We did a show in Juneau. STP did a show. I guess
Okay.
Scott had gone on
wow.
a bender and he wasn't able to do the show because he screwed up. So they, years later, they were gonna we're gonna do a show there because we were supposed to on the last tour. So we flew in there to do this one off, and it was Alaska's beautiful, man.
Yeah, we haven't played
It
there.
is
We haven't played
beautiful.
in Iceland either. Or I haven't played in Iceland, which That's a place I would like to go.
Excellent.
But I've been blessed to play
Russia.
in some crazy everything from Kazakhstan to to some strange little
Russia.
town in the middle of Turkey.
What's the weirdest one-off that you guys had to do or had to? I don't know. You did do it.
That's a
But
good
that's the
question.
way to say it. Yeah.
Or a
I
weird
think
story.
we've played a lot of weird one-offs, but we've played in the Middle East a few times, and those are
Uh-huh.
always a bit strange. You get a lot of you know
Mhm.
expatriates that show up in those kind of places. But one time we played in this, it was like I think it was a resort on the southern border of Turkey, so on the ocean, and it was a resort
On
place.
the Med, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
people came in and it was like a private little show for maybe like 1,500 people. But it was funny because during the day, the women that were wearing their full, I don't know what they called
Hijab.
dish dash, right, or burqa, and
Yeah.
they would go out. They
Yeah.
were swimming in the ocean wearing these full covered things, and I felt so bad for them. It was like, oh man, because they just want to go out and like, they're just dying to just lay on the beach and go like this, but they're soaking wet, wearing their full covered things. Um, I've seen some strange things, but that was pretty funny.
So have you guys done any like bar mitzvahs with Elton John?
No, we have done weddings though. I did a Russian wedding in a strip club.
That's
Shut up.
Yeah, for some.
For Vladimir
Well, it was it was
or
some
Putin.
some billionaire Russian guy, and
Of course.
basically he wanted Elton to be the artist, and they crammed us into some. I literally was playing, and there was a stripper pole right going down through the middle of my equipment.
Did they have the strippers dancing around or?
I think they came in later actually, but yeah, it was everything we could do, to get Elton's 9-foot grand piano on this stripper stage, and the rest of the band we were literally standing on top of each other. It was,
Did he make jokes at the gig? I mean, he's got a
oh
pretty.
God, it was crazy. Yeah, that's all we could do was if you didn't laugh about it, it would kind of have gotten a little ugly.
So, looking forward, have you heard about plans for 21?
The only plans that we have heard right now is it's if Europe opens up, then we are hoping to go there towards the end of the year.
Oh, all right.
What I've heard recently from my friends in Europe is that it's not good there right now.
Yeah, it seems like they're having another surge.
Another
Right.
surge from this second African variant.
Variant, right. God
Yeah.
damn it.
So
Right.
I don't know. I mean that's the way we're kind of keeping our feelers out there, is that maybe in the fall we will go to Europe. We're
One off. Right.
booked the 2022. Sounds crazy to
Right.
even say that
I know, right?
is still booked for the American tour to continue, to continue the farewell tour in the United States. So
Is a farewell tour really a farewell tour?
Is this
yeah,
a Kiss farewell tour or what do we got?
Or is it
Well,
like the Who?
that's an interesting question, because I think we have found out that by doing by this unwanted break,
Yeah.
in a way it was a good break, because I think we all
Uh-huh.
needed to take a break because we've been on the
Of
road so much.
of
But
course.
this is very interesting to see. We had done about a year and a half of a 3-year planned tour, so we
Got it.
still have a year and a half. But I have a feeling if Elton wants to do it, I think we will extend that some more if he wants to
Right.
keep playing. There's always talk of us doing. We can go back to Vegas and just sit in one place,
That's
which
where I
is
saw you last time. Yeah.
yeah, and it's better for everyone as far as health wise. It's better
As you
for
get
us to
older.
park
Yeah.
ourselves there instead of banging into all these cities.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I don't mind doing that. Hey, I love
No, that
Vegas,
must be
man.
so nice. You have your own room. You go, you just go downstairs, you play your set, and
Yeah.
you're done, right? I
I
mean,
just walk around in my Caesar's Palace bathrobe all day long.
exactly, bro. Exactly, Johnny. Exactly. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Why do you think Elton keeps booking these big tours? I mean, this guy, he works hard and he doesn't have to. Do you think it's just because it's in him? Is it the obvious answer that it's just part of what he does? I mean,
Yeah.
like
Purpose.
BB King would say, people that they give him crap for singing about what was he would do Burger King commercials or whatever, but he came from nothing for real.
He's
Looking back on Elton John's childhood, I mean, he had some struggles.
yeah, he came from nothing too. I mean, he didn't come from money, and he's driven, man. He's driven. He loves to make money. He loves to spend. Well, he loves to spend money.
He has an incredible art collection.
Yeah, he loves to spend money, which means he needs to make money, but he's okay with that. He's not shy to tell you, yes. I mean, I've even asked him sometimes, what did you pay for that? He shows me some incredible, piece of art or jewelry or something, and I go, dude, because a regular person doesn't fathom, I go, how much did you pay for that thing? And he'll just tell me, oh, it was blah, 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 whatever. I go, okay.
Rich and famous. Yeah.
But he's not trying to hide it. He's not trying to say, oh, I can't talk about that or whatever. It's just like,
the thing is, I think he deserves it. It's nice when somebody is at that level and they're cool. They're genuinely good people. You're kind of like, you mean it. You say good for you, and you actually mean good for you. Buy that Hockney, another one.
Yeah. He does a lot of stuff that people don't see. Like we'll go to a town and he, like a local artist will bring some of their stuff in, or Elton will go to their gallery, and he will buy it whether he likes it or not. I mean, just to support the arts, man.
I worked. Anthony Hopkins hired me to sell a couple pieces that he had bought. They were Alexander Calder's. I mean, they were amazing, and he had the same. He had all this art that he had just bought to be, helpful. It was tons.
It's kind of like buying a band's, CD. I mean, we don't really do much of that anymore. But I spoke at a music school one time, and we'll quit after this. But I spoke at this music school in Canada, and it was a music school where these kids were all learning to be professional musicians. And as we started the class, I said, "How many people in here have bought a record in the last month?" And like about 4 hands went up, and I said, "How many people have bought a record in the last week?" Like 1 hand goes up. There's like 50 people in the room, 60, 70 people. Yeah. It was a big class. And I go, how many people have downloaded a free song? Boom, all the hands go up. I go, guys, there's a thing called professional musician. How do you expect to make a living if you don't support your own art? If you don't support your own art, how do you expect other people to support your art? And I said, there's, it's a give and a take thing. You have to support each other, and you have to put it out there that we don't do this for free all the time.
John, I mean, I think it's a really strange paradigm shift that I think in 40, 50 years when people, or maybe more than that, I think in maybe 70 years, if we're, people will look back, and between the years of 1955 and 2005, there was a thing called record labels, and there were records, and there was a way to sell music and make music. I think when they look back, that will be an anomaly. They'll be like, wow, that was really a strange 55 years,
Yeah, I do too.
But there was great music.
I just wish music would get the credit that movies and TV, movies and TV get so much credit. Oh, it's so fantastic, and there's 50 of freaking award shows, and but my wife and I were just talking about this. You have to dig into some of these things to who did the music, man. You got to dig in there to figure it out, and who are the songs, and you got to wait till the very end when it comes flying by. And but put on any. I'll never forget one time. I think the Academy Awards, and someone had the genius to play a scene from The Godfather with no music.
Yeah.
And I think they should do more of that. I think they should do more of that to go like we have nothing without music. So, anyways,
and just one last thing, Joel, to your great question about why he still tours. I mean, I think if this last year has showed us that we need a purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, we all need a purpose, and
Yeah.
that's to serve, and by his music, he serves. He serves, like I said.
There's a lot of strip clubs out there that need a
I-
grand piano.
I mean, I remember, dude, I remember that song, like I said, that period of my life at 21 where I was so naive that I thought my life was over. And then I heard that song, and it still matters, and
Yeah.
it gives his life, John's life, it gives him a reason to wake up in the morning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And thank God we still have that,
Yeah.
And John, it's been a blessing to
For sure.
some time with you, John. Joel, I don't know about you, but John, it's been a blessing, bro. It really has.
Maybe I'm gonna pick up my next phone call and be like, "Oh, this guy,
Yeah.
got kids to hang out with." Honestly, Peter's very humble, but you are too. You're a seminal, very important musician, dude, and you should be proud of it. Your kids, I bet, think you're awesome. You're a great dad, and you're a beautiful.
That's why I'm gonna call John and say, John, do you do lessons? No, yeah.
Never too late,
Thank you,
man.
Joel.
You probably would.
It's never too late. No,
Never too late, man.
never too late to learn more and more and more. Anyways, you guys have a great night.
You
Sounds
too.
And I'll speak to you, I hope, soon.
Sounds
Right.
For having me.
All right, guys.
Thanks.
Bye
Thank you,
bye.
guys. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, Johnny.
Okay. Thank you.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Johnny.
Thank you.
All right, John. Bye.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Ooh.